Ok, clase, muy bien. Abran el libro, por favor, a la página 262. 262. Primero, vamos a leer la información en el libro de texto y luego vamos a usar esta hoja para tomar apuntes. Por eso vamos a leer primero, porque esta hoja está organizada un poco diferente que el libro. Y por eso vamos a leer primero y luego les doy oportunidad de llenar la hoja. En la página 262 tenemos la primera de las tres secciones de gramática, more uses of the imperfect. This assumes that you remember the other uses of the imperfect. Now this is why we're reading first, because I think that the book should have reviewed the other stuff first. Well, guess what they do in the second box? They review first. So let's turn over to the second box. That would be page 264, and let's review that first. So we're going to start on page 264 because page 264 allows us to review the imperfect. We're going to do that first, and then we're going to go back to 262 and talk about the other uses that they want us to look at in this chapter. So here we are on page 264. To talk about situations in the past, use the imperfect to set the scene and tell the circumstances surrounding an event. And they give us some examples here. Eran las 8 de la noche y tenía mucha prisa. Mis amigos me esperaban en el cine a la mesa. Íbamos a ver una película porque hacía mal tiempo. All of these things help set the scene or describe the circumstances for whatever event is about to take place. It was 8 o'clock at night, and I was in a real hurry. My friends were waiting for me at the Alameda movie theater. We were going to see a movie because it was bad weather. All of that is circumstances, setting the scene for the main action that is about to happen. Point 2 says, use the imperfect to talk about what people were generally like, how they used to feel, and what they used to like or dislike. De niña no me gustaban los vegetales, pero tenía que comerlos cada día. As a child, I didn't like vegetables, but I had to eat them every day. Number 3, to contrast past routines or situations with the present, use the imperfect to say how things used to be, and the present tense to say how things are now. De niño no me gustaban los vegetales, ahora me encantan. As a child, I didn't like vegetables, now I love them. Now, when you first, it depends on who your teacher was. Depends on who your teacher was for Spanish these first 2 years, whether you have seen a graphic that shows you the relative relationship between the present tense and the imperfect tense or not. Or how your teacher tried to teach you the differences between the two tenses. This is a struggle for us as non-native speakers because we have a hard time making that decision. We don't even really understand that in our own language we do the same thing. But many times the verbs are crossovers. It was at 7 o'clock, okay? And we can use was, again, as in the preterite. We could use, and we'll say was for preterite and imperfect, and we don't have an idea what the difference is for us in English. Well, I know that one phrase that we like to use it for the preterite is, it's a snapshot. Is this a snapshot? Can it tell you what happened at a moment? But one graphic that helps many students is to write the word imperfect across the paper from left to right, and then to write the word preterite starting with the P above the letter R in imperfect down through it. And what we get by looking at a graphic like this is to understand that the imperfect tense is used to talk about ongoing action or description, and the preterite takes a slice out of time in the past and just reports what happened in that slice of time. The imperfect is about setting, and the preterite is about action. We rarely use the imperfect tense to talk about action, although we can. Usually it's talking about what was going on in the background, over which we take a snapshot and describe what happened in a particular moment. The preterite is used for that sequence of events that moves the action forward in time. Now, if you turn back to page 262, I want to tell you some more about the imperfect. It says, when talking about the past, use the imperfect to set the scene. That's what we just talked about. If two things are going on at the same time, use the conjunction mientras to join them. Era viernes por la noche. En el mesón el pianista tocaba mientras los clientes conversaban y comían tranquilamente. It was Friday night. At El Mesón, the piano player was playing while the customers were talking and eating peacefully. They have three concurrent actions, right? Piano music's going on, people are talking, and people are eating. Those are concurrent actions. When you want to connect concurrent actions in the imperfect, you use mientras, which means while. You can also use E, as they did here, but while is a very special conjunction that lets you know that the actions are happening simultaneously or concurrently. Number 2, the imperfect is often used after the preterite of decir with K to report what someone said. The cook said, a la sopa le falta ajo. The soup needs garlic, or the soup is lacking garlic. And if now the waiter goes out to another waiter and says, the cook said, el cocinero dijo que a la sopa le faltaba ajo. The cook said that the soup lacked garlic. Doesn't matter that it's in the present tense, in the original phrase. If you're reporting what someone said, you use the preterite of decir to say so-and-so said, because they said it just once, so-and-so said that, blah, 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 and that becomes the imperfect tense. Alright? Now this one's a little harder to wrap our minds around. So let's take a look at activity 24. On the next page. La sopa está fría, the soup is cold. The last time that Fernando dined in a restaurant, it went very badly. Indicate what he and the waiter said. Now on the left you have Fernando. And in those green conversation bubbles, you have what Fernando says. And then on the right you have the waiter. And in the blue conversation bubbles, but you have what the waiter says. Okay? All of what you see here is written in the present tense. But now, we want to report what Fernando said and what the waiter said in each case. Now it starts out with an unnumbered conversation bubble. See that? That's your example. Fernando says, the soup has too much garlic in it. Notice that the model says, Fernando said, that the soup had too much garlic in it. Fernando dijo que la sopa llevaba demasiado ajo. What does the waiter say about that same situation? Waiter says the soup's perfect. And so you say the waiter said the soup was perfect. El mesero dijo que la sopa estaba perfecta. Okay, so what I want you to do is with your partner over the next couple of minutes, discuss each pair of sentences. So for number one, how will you say, Fernando said the flan lacked flavor. The waiter said it was the best flan in the city. Then you go to number two, both sentences. Then number three, okay, 1 and 2, 3 and 4, 5 and 6. They go in pairs. Do you see that? Work with your partner for just a couple minutes, and then we're going to come back and see what you did with those sentences. ¿Listos? Sí, debemos repasarlos entonces. Número uno, ¿qué dijo Fernando, Milena? Número uno. Perfecto. Fernando dijo que al flan le faltaba sabor. Número dos, por favor. ¿Qué dijo el mesero, Ana?
El mesero dijo que estaba el mejor flan de la ciudad.
Okay, let's see her in the imperfect. Let's see her in the imperfect. Clase? How about era? What? Era. El mesero dijo que era el mejor flan de la ciudad. Número 3, ¿qué dijo? ¿Qué dijo Fernando? Gabriela, número 3.
Fernando dijo los mariscos estaban echados a perder.
Fernando dijo que los mariscos estaban echados a perder. ¿Y qué dijo el mesero? Número 4, Isabel. El mesero. Muy bien, el mesero dijo que los mariscos estaban muy frescos. ¿Qué dijo Fernando? Número 5, Elena. Perfecto. Fernando dijo que el pollo asado estaba frío. Y número 6, ¿qué dijo el mesero? Olga, el mesero dijo que el pollo estaba en su punto. No es difícil esto, pero la mente tiene que cambiar desde el presente hasta el imperfecto en cada situación. Ok, ahora clase, den vuelta a la página 266. 266. Now this is also not a new topic to us. When we did our vocabulary list last week, we talked about this concept. But I just want to make sure that you review the box, and then I'm going to give you the note sheet. I'm going to give you some guidance about how to get started with this note sheet and how to do a good job with the note sheet, and then I'll be quiet, I promise. Okay. Number 1, you've seen past participles of verbs used as adjectives. To form past participles, replace the AR infinitive ending with ado and the ERIR endings with ido. Según la receta, se necesita una taza de cebollas picadas. ¿Las puedes picar tú? According to the recipe, you need a cup of diced onions. Can you dice them? Many adjectives that describe how food is cooked or prepared are past participles. Notice that freír, frito, and revolver, revuelto, have irregular past participles. And then they give you a list of past participles that are going to be useful in this context. Number 3, important point to remember, that when the past participle is being used as an adjective, it has to agree with the noun. It modifies in number and gender because, after all, it's an adjective, and all adjectives agree with the nouns, they modify in number and gender. So, me gustan los huevos revueltos con pan tostado. Those past participles are being used as adjectives there, and so they agree with the nouns, they modify. Now, here I have this gold sheet that you're going to use to now take notes of what you need to out of those grammar boxes, keeping in mind that I really started with the second box and then went back to the first box because I wanted to do the review information first and then the new information. So the first side of the paper is all about the imperfect, and the second side of the paper is about the adjectives. And even though you may feel that you already know this information really well, it doesn't hurt you to take notes, because just writing them down one more time helps commit the information to your memory, helps remind you of the information. Now, I want to start with you. I want to help you fill out the first 3 lines here. Okay? The imperfect tense is used to tell what used to happen, tell what was happening, and describe the way things were. Now those are your basic applications of the imperfect tense. It's used to tell what used to happen, tell what was happening, or describe the way things were. And then, if you will look at the first two grammar boxes together, it will give you some further explanations of what those things mean. See, that's what that next set of lines is for. It's to look at what the textbook says about setting the scene, etc., etc., etc. That's what those lines are for. Use them any way you need to write down those various applications. Okay? Then you'll notice that I said contrasting past routines with present, using the imperfect in compound or complex sentences, and to report what someone says. All of this is about the imperfect. Then you flip the paper over, and there's information about using the past participle as an adjective, and you're going to fill in some things there. Add extra things that you need to add in order to make these your own. Okay? Questions for me? What do you have for homework tonight? Nothing. What are you going to do in class tomorrow? practice. You're going to do packet activities, so that means you're going to need to bring your packet with you, and you're going to do some text activities. I'll leave the list of what ones you're doing, probably on the board, because I probably will come into work before school like I always do, and then leave for the appointment. And then, your job is to do those things. Now let me say this. I could leave something really contrived, something made up for you, but I thought it was just better to use the stuff that we would normally use anyway. I want to give you more than I think you can probably get done. If you don't get it all done, don't worry about it. Now that being said, I'm trusting you to not say, oh, well, I couldn't get more than the first couple of them done. You think I'm going to believe that? No. Okay? I know that you'll be able to get a majority of it done. So don't waste your time socializing with one another, but work your way through these activities so that when I come back on Wednesday, we can be very productive. We can't be productive if you haven't done your part. Okay? Questions for me? All righty. There you go.